Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another movie review. And I been sitting on this movie at least one like having it on the queue for like the longest time. Like I put it in there like middle of last year, but just haven't gotten around to it. And I figured, okay, when the Kenobi series come out, that's when I'll probably like pop it out. But other stuff came up, and I got a little sick, and then Miss Marvel came around. It was like I couldn't fit it in, but I want to do this now before I get into the next few weeks because I just wrapped up my JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind arc, which I'll be doing like a review after this. So now I can just focus on like a full blown Iron Man, review stuff, just like I did with Captain America in July. That's not gonna be like an entire month. I'm gonna try to make it at least close to it, even though it's not technically the start of uh, August anymore. So yeah, comics, the movies, and Iron Man Armored Adventure season 1 and 2, which I thought it was at least 3 seasons, but it's only 2 seasons. So you'll begin a lot of Iron Man soon. But before I get into that, I want to jump into this Jumper, and yeah, starring Hayden Christensen and Samuel Jackson. Uh, yeah, I mean, I wanted to pick like a Hayden Christensen movie because uh, this is like not too long after the whole debacle of the prequels at that time, and wouldn't you know it, it's just like at least because matter of fact, because in the same year as the first Iron Man came out, so this is like before the MCU really got started. uh yeah, the uh Iron Man movie came out in May. Jumper came out in February. It's supposed to have been like a Valentine's Day type of movie, something to bring your girl to, and it wasn't, at least some audience like consider it an okay film. Critics, or at least those people in those kind of like fields, or at least well, I guess critics, it didn't look, did not look on this film favorably. But like I didn't get to see this in the theater because yeah, just like with like the which is ironic here, but the you'll see why at the end of the video. But the Twilight actors, Kristen Stewart and crap, what's his name? Crap, Robert Pattinson. I'm blanking on his name that fast. Robert Pattinson. After the whole debacle that was Twilight, it took them a while to like do all these little indie projects and like really work their way up out of that ethos, because it was the writer, which is ironic because the Jumper is based off a Stephen Gould book, and Twilight obviously based off a book as well. I haven't read any of the books. From what I've heard, they're better ish. Some people like don't think the books were that good, but probably likely slightly better than the films. But Hayden Christensen, because of like, well, we look back on it now and understand where, because we didn't know at that time, because like until like I don't know, until like I don't know, the 5 years to almost a decade, when like stuff that's like remain like behind closed doors gets like released to the public, and we know like for sure what was going on behind the scenes. for all we knew, like it was Hayden Christensen's fault without understanding the nuances that George Lucas, blame lies on him. And after the Kenobi series, we can see that it was definitely on George Lucas, because even though he created like one of my favorite sci-fi anything, it just, I don't know, maybe because he did direct the original stuff and they were good. I'm not sure, like, what exactly happened to where now, when it comes, especially when it comes to like I guess like romance and chemistry, the ball falls short. But I wanted to, because obviously Hayden Christensen did other stuff, but only other thing outside of Star Wars that I seen him in was Jumper, and I remember liking it pretty well. And I thought, okay, this dude can act. Okay, and from what we see in the Kenobi series, he haven't lost a step, period. And it's like, this dude is like smooth. This dude's like, it's hard to get out of that gaze, because like, matter of fact, scratch that somewhat a little bit, because people talk about like, like how bad, like, at least back then how bad it was, but now we look back on it and really take a good look at it and understand like what was going on behind the scenes. And then with the Clone Wars series, all that stuff kind of like gave us like a new perspective. We're like, okay, now we're looking at a whole new worldview that we didn't have at that time. And now it's like, okay, Hayden Christensen is a phenomenal actor. And like his portrayal as Darth Vader permeates to this day. Because like, especially at the Kenobi series, that last episode. Now, check out my video of my full season 1 review of the Kenobi series to get my full thoughts. But Hayden Christensen acted the hell out of it, him and Ewan McGregor. Because like, because Hayden Christensen get in that zone, and it's like, it's just like the way he stares at you. And because I guess after like, seeing him in the series, rewatching this, there's certain moments when he's when he's being intimidating in this film. Now I just see Vader. It's like when he turns that temper on, and it's like, okay, you're just, Vader at this point and scaring the crap out of me. It's like, when he gets like that rage, and it's like, he's freaking Vader, and like, he nails it. But anyway, I'm glad we have a new appreciation of Hayden Christensen now. I didn't hate him in the role back then. And I'm glad other people got back on board with his like skills as an actor. But Hayden Christensen, and like I said, it stars Hayden Christensen playing as David Rice. Rachel Gleason playing Millie Harris, David's love interest. Samuel L. Jackson as Roland Cox, the leader of this evil organization called the Paladins. Jamie Bell playing another jumper named Griffin O'Connor. Diane Lane as Mary Rice, David's long lost mother. And Michael Rooker as William Rice, David's father. Now, the movie starts in like back, he's doing like those narrations, like, you want to know how this happened? I want to take you back, that kind of thing. Some people think it's kind of cliche. It is kind of cliche. It was just, if you do it right, it's like, or at least put some spin on it, you can let it slide. But you see like the first time he actually teleports, and you hear a lot of references to like comic books, and there was like an X-Men comic in like a couple of scenes, and it's like, yeah, jumpers are, in this universe are certain people with, let's just say, an X gene, but instead of a wide variety of kind of abilities, they're mainly focused on teleportation. And apparently this kind of thing has been happening since times of medieval England, and that's where like the origins of the paladins began. And you see like a 15-year-old Millie and David, and the kid who's playing the teenage David does an impressive skill at mimicking a Hayden Christensen, like, or at least like a young Hayden Christensen, with the way he speaks and the way he alter his voice a little bit is like very kind of low kind of thing. It's like that. It's like but I think like that was well acted. His mom left him and his father when he was 5 for mysterious reasons, and I guess because of that whole ordeal, when a parent just ups and leave, 9 times out of 10, well, I won't say 9 times out of 10, there's a 50-50 shot. Worst case scenario, you have a parent, in this case David's father, just being like an abusive father. Now we don't get like they hinted at it in the film, the way like Michael Rooker's character acting so aggressively, in the way he talks to his kid. The book apparently really leans into the abusiveness about it. Side note: when I went to C2E2 a week ago, I saw Michael Rooker there. I didn't go to see him specifically. I like him as an actor, but this dude, like, despite his age, he got like a lot of energy. Like, he got up from his booth to talk with one of the main Grand Inquisitor, the actor who plays him, because he was right next to him, and he got up to second saying like, "Hey, you know who this guy is?" And it's like, and then like crowd goes wild, and like it's just like, it was like an amazing kind of moment. And then like the little girl played little Princess Leia was like on the other side of the voice actor Steve Bloom that I was seeing there. And last year I went to C2E2 and Hayden Christensen showed up there, but it's like I wanted to go see him, but it's like it wasn't until this year when I kind of really focus on making sure I budget what I'm planning on doing. I kind of went overboard with buying like pop figures and posters last year, so I didn't have the extra scratch to go see him, which it still bugs me because like I would love to meet Hayden Christensen. I love him as an actor. The dude is like incredibly cool, and but it's just also COVID was still like like, because people was like so hesitant on taking vaccines. It was a whole thing, and I saw like an image of somebody who took a quick picture, even though you're not supposed to, or not a picture, but like a little brief little video of them walking up to Hayden Christensen as he's like talking with another person, like a couple of people ahead of him, and like you can see like, because they was doing like those protective glass things between like the actor and the about to say customer, but like the person wanted to go see him. And it's like, that will bum me out. It's like, I want to, a second, like I want to be able to like, or not like obviously touch him. I don't want to be all grabby on Hayden, but it's just that it's just like you there as a meet and greet. You want to be in the presence of like somebody you admire and idolize, and I didn't feel, I wouldn't say I wouldn't feel comfortable. It'll still be a cool experience, but it'll be feeling, I would feel like I would be visiting. it's like visiting Hayden Christensen in prison or something. It's like that'd be so impersonal. And it's like maybe next time, but man, I do want to meet Hayden Christensen because dude is like so goddamn cool. Him, Rosario Dawson, which she did came this year, but she's got a whole wing to herself, and I imagine it's like crazy expensive to do any kind of meet and greet because that's probably I don't know for sure how much that will end up costing. They usually don't unless you actually up there, you don't see like the actual price that would take to do like photo and picture, a photo and like autograph. But I would love to meet her. Like I have a huge crush on Rosario Dawson ever since Clerks 2, and she is hilarious. She's like my kind of geek girl, and it's just like it's maybe next time. But that's kind of thing where if you going to see something as big as her, and Billy D. Williams showed up there too. He has his own little separate wing altogether, and it's like that's pretty much like your whole budget. If you're going to see someone that big, that's your whole entire budget. Don't plan unless you got money like that or you've been saving up like crazy for this. Like that's your whole budget. And it's like once you snap the picture and get an autograph, you're going home, or at least stroll, take a stroll around the event and stuff like that. But you can't buy anything because you pretty much spent it all. But anyway, I'm digressing. David has obviously a crush on his high school girl named Millie, and it's nice little foreshadowing. At least I think it's kind of foreshadowing that she has like her locker door has all these pictures of all these different places in the world. Rome being like the front and center that she wants to go visit, and David gives her this snow globe with the Eiffel Tower inside, and of course he gets like messed with his bully named Mike. End up pushing David in like because it's frozen lake. It's snow is like I forgot what's like the town that they're in. It starts with a Abner, Abing. It's a real place. I'm blanking on it. Not Albuquerque, but like it's not too far from apparently it's not too far from New York if it's like a bus ride away. But anyway, David is obviously always jumping in to get him, and David is like about to sink like a stone until he activates his teleportation powers and teleports to in the middle of the public library. And it's weird that nobody's like questioning like, okay, like what the hell just happened? There was no police investigation. Well, you see the police in like a couple of scenes after this, but it's like, so it's like, okay, I guess that's it for the investigation. He ends up walking home, confused as hell, like what the hell just happened. But then, his father is like, giving him grief, and he's trying to be alone in his room to like think. Like his father's trying to burst through the door, and he ends up teleporting right back into the library. And so he decides to collect his things. Whatever little money he had, he took a bus ride to New York, but not before he leaves the snow globe at Millie's house before he leaves. So he rents an apartment that kind of reminds me of all those generic apartments you see in like the Spider-Man films, even to like the crabby old landlord, it's like begging for rent. And like, hey, no weird stuff. What kind of people you inviting in your establishment, or at least renting your place, that's weird to you? That's that part is weird. Like, what's weird? Did you catch like somebody having like a bunch of circus folk coming out of their room one time, or what? Like, what's weird? So David decides, okay, I need money. I'm 15 years old. I'm on my own. I need to be able to take care of myself. And so he decides to rob the bank. Now, this is where like the parallels between like him and Nightcrawler, because like I said, you've seen a couple of scenes where you see like a little snapshot of or at least a glimmer of an X-Men comic book, and you can't help but think of the most famous teleporter in pop culture history, Nightcrawler. And just like Nightcrawler and any other kind of teleporter from like pop culture, as great as their ability is it hinders on them knowing exactly where they are going, because like Nightcrawler said, like I might end up in a wall or something. So, but this gets kind of tricky because he goes to the bank to pretend he gotta use the bathroom, and he walks by, which is kind of a coincidence. He managed to walk by the big safe just as they're about to close it, so he can get a good look inside. And which he eventually gets some tools and a bag, teleports inside, and steal a bunch of money. Not everything, but like a decent amount. And it's been 8 years. He's been like doing this, not probably a lot, just enough to where like eventually he has hubs in different parts of the world. But here's the thing that got me a little confused was, they kind of like contradict themselves, because he has all these pictures in his New York apartment. It was like a bigger one. It's like a penthouse almost. And he can just, grab one and look at it so he can know where exactly he wants to go. Now, that isn't so much of a problem if he already been there and he took the photo. I guess that I can buy if that is the case, because that's what I'm leaning towards, where it's like, okay, he had to be there, take a picture, bring it back home, so that way he doesn't have to remember exactly he's been before. He can just have a picture so he can just look at it. Okay, oh, I've been to Tokyo, Japan, and the square, so that's what I took a picture of, so that's where I'm looking at, so I'll automatically teleport the exact spot I've been at. So he has a whole bunch of it. So throughout the 8 years of him honing his skills as a teleporter, because at first it caused like an aftershock as he's trying to teleport back and forth. Through practice, he eventually got a little bit more smooth with it, where he just like was kind of like great editing, and the green screen CGI VFX stuff gets spotty here and there, like at the end shot with his girlfriend standing in the snow waiting for him. That part, that was the most glaring, off-putting green screen that I've ever seen in a film. That's not like a big budget superhero thing, even though this could easily be like a superhero kind of arc or whatever. But it seems more like an action, just like a one-off action kind of film. And there was one more, because he's in his apartment, and like maybe it's because when he was like young, he got all this crap. He just had like an impulse to get. But it's just like, yeah, like all these like, it was motorcycles, but it's like, it was like not like X Games type of motorcycle, but like the very colored, candy colored type of motorcycles, and a bunch of stuff that I can't even imagine him using. He just having in his house because he just wanted it, or for like an impulse kind of thing. And it's like, because he narrates right when he decides, like, I gotta rob this bank so I can have some money for myself, and like he narrates like, what would you do? And I'm not like judging him on doing what he had to do just to live. He was 15, yeah. But it's like, bro, like you just buy just any random thing. Do you even it'll be one thing if like he has these motorcycles and you see in later shots him driving motorcycles, so he actually learned. But it is there, I guess, for the aesthetic. But he's in his house and he's watching the news, and he sees like people, it's like it was like a flood situation and people are stranded and like you know rescuers are having a hard time getting to him, and he just like drinking his beer and like moseying on back to his business, and it's like I kind of like that because not everybody's built to be like like as soon as you got powers, you don't necessarily have to just be like a evil dickhead like Homelander or something like that, but you don't necessarily have to be like, oh, I'm going to become like a superhero, which is like most people will, especially around his age when he was 15, you'll be like had that in your brain, but he decided like, well, it's not my problem, and he just like goes about his day. It's like don't even consider it, which is weird, cause like, well, which kind of feeds into like the Paladins' mindset, because they're religious fanatics that views jumpers as abominations, and only God should be able to be in every place at any time. And they view like jumpers as like just all out just bad people. They just do bad things one way or the other at some point down the line. And you can also point out how like, oh, this could be like a perpetual cycle. You view them as like the enemy only because they have to most of them have to run for their lives and probably do some shady stuff just to get by or survive because you're hunting them. And that feeds into your narrative of them being just bad people without appreciating them as people. And this kind of feeds into like that kind of narrative where David doesn't even consider using his abilities, even if he, like at least wear a mask or something. He doesn't consider like teleporting there and saving everybody. He just out for his own. He just teleports to London, hooks up with this woman. And then he teleports to Fiji to catch some waves. He's doing his thing. But then he meets up with Roland, played by Samuel L. Jackson. And it's funny, you see like Samuel L. Jackson and Hayden together in a film that's not Star Wars, because I imagine these two have like a cool rapport. And I like these two in the scene together. And he tried to snatch up David so he can kill him, because that's the Paladin's job. They kill jumpers. And David managed to get away because over time, I imagine, because he has like a little secret wall behind like a secret room behind a wall where he keeps all his like extra cash, which he has like a separate boxes for different types of currency from different places around the world. So he grabs some 2 big bags of cash and a couple of stuff, and he teleports probably on instinct back home. And Rourke decides, okay, we're bringing everybody in. So you see a brief moment where like David's father hearing like commotion upstairs, and like, oh, David's back. He runs up there and he's trying to like I guess reconcile, because he's like, I guess had time to think and he's been alone, and it's like he misses his son. It's been 8 years. But David, because his father said like, I thought it was crazy, and David's only response to him was like, no, you're not crazy, and he teleports out again. Still obviously, suffering from, like trauma from like the abuse, because like that just obviously is not going to go away. Uh, he finds out that his childhood crush is working at a bar, and as he's trying to talk with her, this smuck Mike, who is obviously an adult now and just obviously did not do nothing with his life, now he's just probably like a neighborhood nuisance, gets in a fight with David. David teleports him, was kind of stupid, like teleports him inside the bank he robbed 8 years prior, uh, and then teleports back. And he talks with Millie, and it's like, he said like, oh, he lies to her, about what he does. He says he's a banker and he's going into Rome. He wanted to take her with him because she always wanted to go to Rome, and she kind of it's one of those small town things where little kids, had these big dreams of doing certain things, and it's like, the way she put it, like reality set in. It's like, I don't think I'm ever gonna be going anywhere. So he decides to take her to Rome. Then Roland questions Mike, which he ends up giving up, details about like David, and it's like, that's the still part. Like, dude, like, of course, like, certain things David does here is kind of like he's just oblivious on, or just doesn't consider, because he for the longest time, for 8 years, he's been doing whatever he wants to do because he had the ability just to be anywhere he wants to. And I guess that's like the danger that the Paladins always had in their minds. Like, people with this ability can't be trusted. Because I guess maybe back in medieval times, it's like anybody with the ability to just port anywhere, they can just do all kind of dastardly things. And these kind of things, this mutation kind of spring up when they're 5, apparently, not when they're teenagers. And or at least it kind of like, you see the first sign when they're 5, but it'll be a little bit more frequent and stabilized when they hit like 15, I guess. So while in Rome, they they hook up, they spend some quality time, go to the Colosseum, and up to this point along the way, you see these little moments where you see Griffin. For some reason he's at certain spots where, like, why would he be at Ann Arbor? That was the town. Why would he be in the small town in the exact bar? It's just weird. I get it. In London, he probably was already there, because when you noticed, him porting, then nobody else for some reason noticed. At certain moments when like some people should have noticed him popping in out of thin air, you see most people later in films, notice a little bit more of that as like a fight ensues. But it's like, of course, I guess like cell phones at the time is like don't have like kind of like a 4K camera thing to post on the internet, because like I'm pretty sure Twitter and Facebook was a thing, but still, like, wasn't a heaping mess like it is now. But I imagine somebody would have caught that, especially when you're in Times Square or in China, and you probably should have something to see these guys porting all over the place, and like become like a national, worldwide news thing. Like, these people just teleporting in and out. But anyway, still lying to her, but he decides to try to make this moment special so he can, like, solidify the relationship. He sees Griffin again, and these paladins come up and try to take them down. Griffin ends up killing them very casually, and Millie and David gets captured by the Italian police, because not only they broke in, they end up causing just like a bit of damage with them porting around and fighting and all this other stuff. And the Paladins wield these kind of staff cable things where it's like shoots electricity or shoots out these wire bolos that has an electrical current, because electricity destabilizes a jumper's ability to teleport anywhere, because I guess all the electricity flowing through their veins, they can't really like focus. While in holding, David's mother just shows up out of the blue, releases him, but it says like, "Oh, you got 20 seconds. I don't have time to talk. You got 20 seconds to get the heck out of here." David leaves with Millie, goes to the airport, still not divulging anything to her, and she's like completely questioning about what the heck is going on. He leaves her at the airport, gets everything ready, set up, like, "Okay, I got you booked to go home. I'm sorry, I gotta go." So he just leaves her there at the airport. Then he tracks down Griffin, who explains to him about what's going on about the Paladins, and David mentions like they should do a team up. It's like just like with the comics, and then two heroes team up. Griffin's like hesitant on this because he's been alone this whole time. You find out later he lost his parents because of these Paladins, but they took him on to like team up to try to track down Roland, while Roland ends up questioning David's father, ends up killing him. Well, not killing him, but like severely wounding him. I'm jumping all over the place, ironically, but it was a whole thing where David is like, despite I guess his ill will towards his father, he doesn't want his father to die, so he pours him, because it's the first time in a long time where he's like porting so aggressively where it leaves a small crater in the ground, pours him at the nearest hospital, so the doctors can treat his father's wounds. But this is the last moment you see David's father at all. You don't even know if he survived at all, which is kind of like a loose end on that part. Like, did you meet up with your father? Like, how's he even doing? Whatever. We don't know. But David finally confronts Millie, and just like in the Amazing Spider-Man, with Peter Parker, visually showing Gwen who he is with the web shooter and pulling her towards him. This kind of reminiscent to that, where he just casually pours over to her dress to collect that snow globe he gave to her and pours right in front of her. But unlike Gwen Stacy, she don't just immediately starts making out with him. She books it, which understandably you would be freaked out if somebody just do something like that in front of you. You might get a little freaked. But Rourke shows up at an apartment, figuring out that Millie is a key thing, to lure David out. Like Griffin mentions, they will kill anybody especially your family, just to lure you out to kill you, and they'll kill anybody that gets in their way. So he decides to teleport Millie to Griffin's hideout in Egypt, which kind of like pisses off Griffin, because he explains to David, which I don't know why you didn't tell him this before, that when you teleporting, you leave this little temporary tear that lasts for maybe like a minute, or 30 seconds to maybe a minute. And they have this machine that can hold the tear open longer, so anybody else can just follow through. So they begin to, the paladins begin to jump through the tear into Griffin's hideout. And Griffin, is like a badass way, starts like shooting, a flamethrower at these guys. And it's like, whoa, it's like the flamethrower is probably the most surprising weapon you see anywhere. It's like you do not expect somebody to whip out a flamethrower on you. The first thing you'll do is just starts like running, because like, F this. I can't like fire back at least whole honestly without, being worried about getting burnt alive. So and Griffin, in amazing display of his abilities, he starts like porting in like a double-decker bus from London into the desert, nearly crushing Roland. It's like an awesome moment. And this movie's an awesome display of teleportation powers, aside from what you see from Nightcrawler in X2. David, unfortunately, he's got trapped by the electric cable wires from the Paladins, but Millie, set him free. Just when he was about to take her home, Roland, because he jumped right back through the tear just to avoid getting hit by fire, he shoots out a cable, pulls her in, set her up as bait. Griffin decides, okay, he has some kind of makeshift bomb. He decides he's going to port to where Roland is and leave it there to set it off to kill as many of those paladins, including Roland as possible. And he's damned the casualty of Millie, which is not sitting well with David, obviously. So he ports there's a moment where he follows Griffin through his tears just to get him to work with him. But during this moment, because he's not agreeing to like a full-on terrorist act, he decides to teleport the bomb into these different places, try to get the trigger from Griffin, and it was like a whole ensuing thing. It's like teleportation chase scene. A car chase with teleportation, and you see Griffin, teleports. He gets in a stranger's ride, and he ports the entire car to crash into David, which should have easily crushed him. But I guess you can say he teleported out of the way before like the immediate impact. He teleports in the Chechnya during like a war going on. But David's quick thinking, he managed to port Griffin between these power lines, which means he didn't roast this kid alive. But this is where we last see Griffin. But Griffin's warning him, like, they will kill you. You won't be able to, because he just wants to get out, but he obviously is not going to be down for a team up. So it's like David's not, whatever. So he decides to go at this alone. And obviously it's like a trap, but he has a plan. Earlier, Griffin explains to him about this other jumper he knew that, tried to jump an entire building, but he ended up killing himself in the process because it was too big. Because like the biggest object that Griffin managed to port with him will be a car, and that's about the biggest he can pull through his tear. But in this moment, which I think was like a cool moment, where because I don't even remember like something like Nightcrawler ever pulling this stunt, where David, while being hogtied by the Paladins, he decides, okay, I'm not going to port the entire building. What I am going to do is port the entire apartment part. So he ports it all and anybody in it to this river. Most of the Paladins drown except for Roland, and thanks to Millie, he gets loose from his cables and he ports everybody to the library again. This whole entire place is just like this ransacked. Uh, so he ports Roland to the Grand Canyon, this little cave in the Grand Canyon, and he's been explaining to like Roland constantly like he's different from the jumpers he knew. And he tells Roland, because we're not all killers, but he tells Roland, like, I could have left you in, I could have, put you in the ocean with the sharks. Is hinting at like what Griffin did to one of the other paladins. So this is where like we leave Griffin. Now I'm not sure if this movie was supposed to be setting up some kind of sequel, because that's what it seemed like. It's a very sequel baity kind of movie, but we never got one. That's one of the things I wanted to like say to Hayden Christensen. Like, I really like the movie Jumper. It's a shame that we never got a sequel, because it's like obviously some stuff that was like left on the table that he could easily done something with. So in the end, David tracks down his mother, who's apparently not that far away from New York City, and he opens the door and you get a surprise cameo for Kristen Stewart, which is why I mentioned about the Twilight thing earlier. And apparently that's his half sister, and he confronts his mother about like, why did you leave him? Why'd you leave me? And she mentions like, I was a paladin. As soon as I saw you make your first jump at 5, I had only 2 choices: either kill you or leave. So I chose to leave because I love you too much. And I don't even know, like, well, in a certain darker kind of films, I can imagine there's some paladins who probably had kids at some point in time, and they seen their kids display jumping abilities, and they probably had to kill their own kid. But she can't be the first one to like not do that job. But I guess she, in her way, she's trying to be apologetic, but she just pretty much like did what she had to do. But I kind of wish it was a little bit more to the discussion between these two, because it's like, this is your grown kid who you left with an abusive father, in which I wish that David would express that. Like, did you know what? Maybe in the book they did, but I wish that David kind of explained to her, like, you left me alone with this guy who was so broken up of losing you, he took it out on me, and I was left with that. Like, you may not kill me, but like you left me to essentially be like tortured by a guy who like was a drunk. But I wish it was like some kind of dialogue with that. But she gives him a hug, says, "Oh, I'll give you a 5-minute head start," kind of thing. But she's obviously not going to go after him. Or, like I said, it's a sequel baby. Maybe if there was a sequel, maybe it would be like her being like the new paladin leader, or maybe being brought in because well, apparently in a book, Roland had like a change of heart thanks to seeing what David choosing to be better. But maybe like his mom kind of takes over leader and decides, well, I knew this day was coming, so I'm gonna have to hunt and kill my own kid. And I don't know. It'd be kind of funny if the daughter also displayed certain jumping abilities, but she kept it hidden. But I don't know. But the movie ends with David and Millie teleporting away to a warmer climate, and that's the end of the film. But I agree with most audiences who've seen this film. It's a decent B-level movie. It's an okay film. You won't hate it for watching it. Millie, I mean, I like the actress. She did what was asked of her, but it's those typical love. Well, there's worser love interest that I've seen in film, but she's very middle of the road for me as far as like a love interest that like you see like some weird stuff. See some weird stuff, but he's your boyfriend is behaving strangely, and it's like I guess you wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, but you don't press it or at least try to look into it because you just immediately buy that banker stuff. And like you said a couple of times, like, didn't you fail algebra? And it's like you getting these red flags and you don't try to like do some follow up or something like that. So some initiative saying like not because you feel like it kind of feels like you're being kind of gullible. But other than those cons that I mentioned, like I said, this is a very okay movie. B level, is it would have been interesting to see like a sequel from this, but who knows? It might have been worser. The director here also directed the first Bourne Identity film. He directed a couple other things too, but yeah, I mean, like he has some notoriety on his under his belt, so that's why we probably uh, consider this movie as still like a solid film. The Like I said, the certain effects gets a little wonky in certain places, but by and large, the teleportation, like Griffin and Griffin and David teleporting fighting was cool as hell. There was one moment with Griffin. I guess he, like I said, he'd been doing this for such a long time. He knows how to like weaponize his teleportation to where he does this like like as he's about to like throw a punch at Roland, like Roland's right here, Griffin's right here, and it's like he's look like he's rushing in. He's go skip, and he's rushing, skip, rushing, and just like whammo. Because I guess he bringing in all that momentum to cause that force. I thought that was dope because I have not seen I read my fair share of comics and watch stuff that like heroes that has a teleporter there, and it's like even like with Nightcrawler in the X-Men films, or even like in certain TV shows with Nightcrawler in it, I never seen any of them utilize teleportation like that to make your punch stronger. I thought that was like a dope way of out of the box thinking, because if you have like one special like ability, you learn to use it in a variety of different ways to make it like beneficial and not just something passive. It's kind of like Naruto, where it's like Rock Lee. You think like, oh, Taijutsu, oh, he's just gonna be just doing all the fighting, but no, he takes it to a whole nother level with the inner gates, and increasing his speed, and it's just like he utilized a variety of taijutsu skills in like and mastered any one of them just to compensate for his lack of ninjutsu and genjutsu. And that's I kind of like make that kind of sort of comparison, if that makes any sense to you guys if you watch Naruto. But that was Jumper. Like I said, like a solid Hayden Christensen film. I'm pretty sure, yeah, he obviously did more, but this is the only other thing I've seen him in outside of Star Wars. But leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of Jumper if you've seen it. You can watch it on not HBO Max, Amazon Prime. That's where I watched it because I can't find it anywhere else. That's why I have Amazon Prime for that sort of an occasion. Because I got Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and Netflix. If any one of them don't have what I'm looking for, Amazon Prime is my like last resort to see. And if I have to, rent it so I can see a particular film. So yeah, but leave a like and comment, show your support, because I recently got over 300 subscribers. So thank you all. I appreciate the support and the viewership. Depending on how long, because I got like a couple of other things I got to review. So I might not get into any games tonight, but I will, at some point early afternoon, and like get back into multiverses because I want to start doing like a tutorial with Bugs Bunny because I already played, some gameplay, which you can see the videos up on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. I already played a bunch of games utilizing Superman, and then all last week utilizing Harley Quinn. So now I'm going to work into learning Bugs Bunny. And then getting back to the God of War 4, continuing on that walkthrough, and Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney trilogy as well. But you can always see what I have so far up on the channel. Got a lot of games up on the channel, so you can check it out, as well as comic book reviews, TV show reviews, movie reviews. Definitely check those out as well if anything that tickles your fancy. So yeah, I will see you guys in a little bit. Speaking of comic book reviews, I have one shortest one that I want to do, because last week I did the Black Label Harley Quinn book, just called Harleen. Check that out on the channel, on my YouTube channel as well. But I'll be getting into her girlfriend, Poison Ivy. So look forward to that. And yeah, see you guys in a little bit.